Now, the Armstrong-Williams Show continues. If phone lines are busy or you are listening to a delayed broadcast of today's program in your city, you can always contact Armstrong via email to info@armstrongwilliams.com. Once again, here's your host, Armstrong Williams.
Welcome back to the Armstrong-Williams Show, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition. Josh Barnard, welcome back to the Armstrong-Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Hello, Josh.
How's it going, Armstrong?
You're so laid back. That's what happens when you live in Texas. Texans are never in a hurry for anything. They have the number one economy in the country. They don't suffer, so, they're cool guys. Josh, why is the equities market getting stomped today, this week?
Well, Armstrong, the last few times I've been on your show, I've been saying we hadn't seen the bottom, and this is just one of those situations where I hate to say I told you so, but we're just actually seeing the manifestation of a pretty bad economy right now.
You got to tell us more than that, Josh. You don't tell us you're shy today.
Well, I'm not shy.
This is not a soundbite show.
Well, I feel like I've been kind of beating a dead horse, but the reality is that our government has subscribed to a monetary policy that has failed, and we are operating on a fiat currency, and everybody's realizing that the real value in life is not in these highly leveraged equities that are trading, 12, 15 times earnings. It's not there, and people are getting hurt. Also, you have countries liquidating positions in order to get the dollars they need to pay down their leveraged debt in the CDO market and with the commodities getting hit. So, we've got a lot of stuff going on here, but all of it comes back to the dollar being basically garbage.
Don't say it's garbage. Why would you say that?
Well, it is. Think about it. If you can just go and create, $1 trillion, $2 trillion out of thin air to throw in these holes created by the central banking system, you can just make that out of thin air, which is literally half of the second largest GDP in the world that we've created out of thin air to throw in these holes. If you can do that, is there really any value to that thing? I can't go and pull $2 trillion of gold out of a mountain in a couple days, but I can just print up dollars. It's worthless. It's garbage.
Let me ask you, what is working in the market today? What gives you hope that people can build from?
I got to tell you, what we're doing here at the Anonymous American and Wabash Trading is we're buying, scaling in, cost averaging. We're buying commodities like oil, metals, platinum, palladium. We're betting that the auto market will still be here in 10 or 20 years, but it might not be GM or Ford or Chrysler, but there's still going to be a demand for things like platinum and palladium in the auto market. There's still going to be demand for things like silver as, bank reserves. More and more countries are wanting to decouple from the dollar and use an honest money. So they're going to need silver and gold to back their money. I like those. I think that, there are some plays to be made in Chinese steel and stuff like that. The problem is the average individual can't get into it because you're forced to buy the B shares unless you're in a fund or an ETF. So, there's not a lot of hope out there. I would say, if people are wise, they would start realizing that we can't live mired under so much debt. We need to start saving money and realizing that we have created a bunch more money and that money is going to be devalued. So we need to buy things of real value to protect ourselves from the coming inflation.
I have to tell you, I'm just wondering the impact of this debate of Congress always willing to bail out its friends and its special interests while others must fend for themselves. And also the trouble still in the number of foreclosures that are happening around the country. How much is this impacting the overall market?
Oh, it's huge, Armstrong. Like the foreclosures, you got to understand, and I've been talking about the unwinding of these bad positions and the demand that it's creating for the dollar for foreign banks and even domestic banks to get out of these losing positions in the mortgage-backed security market. They have not completely unwound these positions. They're not even close. And so every percentage, these a lot of times these mortgage-backed securities are so highly leveraged that for every, percent that of value that the actual underlying home market loses in the United States, they may be losing 3 to 5% of the principal investment in these securities. So, these foreclosures are devastating, and you have, that's why you're seeing actually there's some strength in the dollar and stuff. It's artificial and short-term strength because of this demand. But that's an enormous thing, Armstrong. I can't even begin to guess at how big it is, but it's trillions and trillions of fake dollars that have yet to be created that must be created in order to pay this bad debt.
Could you, in your experience, and our phone line's open at 733-5620, talk about how all these markets are connected? Our market with the German DAX, the Nikkei in Japan, how it all connects and how we all share and buy from each other. Just in a brief synopsis, why this is a global crisis and not just one in the United States, and why the United States seems to be faring better than everyone else around the world.
Well, it's the most concise way I can put this is that it just so happens that the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency, and that pretty much sums up everything you're asking about there. Other countries and other equity markets and all the markets, commodities, you name it, all create some kind of demand for the U.S. dollar, and they're forced to buy every, say, you mentioned the DAX, every stock on that, industrial stock on the DAX that, say, manufactures needs commodities to manufacture their wares, right? Well, most of those, if not all of those commodities are going to settle to the U.S. dollar on the world exchanges. So even though they trade in the euro or the Deutschmark on the DAX, and it settles to that in terms of the equity cash, their actual things that they need to run their business create a demand for the U.S. dollar. So our economy is basically, there's a word for it. It's called hegemony. We dominate the world with our currency, and that's the reason that we have 730 military bases in 130 countries, is we have to defend our dollar. It has nothing to do directly with, I shouldn't say nothing, but it has less to do directly with things like oil or unrest in certain areas of the world, and everything to do with the fact that we've created a monetary policy that we have to defend militarily, and the rest of the world realizes that too, and this is devastating for them. They're forced to inventory the dollar, and then they look for products, risky products, to defend from the inflation that we're going to inflict on them while they're holding the dollar, because we have these huge trade imbalances. So these trade imbalances.
Obviously, the military is rendered useless in a crisis like this. For any kind of defense of the dollar.
I beg to differ. I mean, the reality is that this would be a whole lot worse if we didn't have our hegemony and our huge foreign policy, $1.2 trillion in foreign policy and all that stuff going on. I would say that this would be far worse, because all these countries would say, you know what, we're out of the dollar. We're done. And they'd wash their hands of it, and they would start trading steel and oil and their currencies, or the euro or the Swiss franc or whatever.
If this continues to worsen?
Well, they're trying to make it happen. That's what that G20 meeting is a precursor to, is a world reserve currency other than the dollar. And you got to remember, it doesn't affect the banking cartels. The Federal Reserve and ECB, they don't care where they're printing the money from or what the name on the reserve currency is. All they care is that they can lend money that they don't really have and charge interest on it, and keep their one client alive. And in this case, the one client is the U.S. government for the Federal Reserve. And and that's the thing, is you'll hear people throw the word conspiracy stuff around when you talk about monetary policy and the banking cartels, but it's not in any way conspiracy. It's observable fact that they don't really care necessarily that it's the U.S. dollar, as long as they control the issuance of currency. And Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, hundreds of years ago, guys were writing about this. Even before that, I think John Locke, Virgil, paper money, whoever issues the currency controls the land and really rules the country and the world. And that's what we're seeing here.
Wow.
People are being,
No, go ahead. Please continue.
I was just going to say,